sitting here at the 3C shop, and this is gonna be our first segment of, I don't know, what do you want to call this one?
Just cars.
Just cars.
Just cars.
Just cars.
There we go. We just named it. That's all we're going to talk about.
Oh man, look at this S2000. We were just talking about the S2000. This is on a current bid.
That's it. So it's an AP2 S2000. I actually have a friend that's seriously considering buying an S2000. And I have strong feelings about the AP2 versus the AP1. What about you?
I don't know the difference, to be 100% honest.
So the biggest difference is the red line. They dialed it back from $9,000 to I think $8,400 in the AP2. And they also made some changes to the suspension geometry that made it less easy to slide the rear end around. So it's a little bit more neutral. But everybody says the AP1 is the better S2000. I've never driven an AP2, so I don't know if I agree with that. But I can tell you that as a car, you would have to be an extremist to live with one on a daily basis.
Really?
Yeah. There's literally no room inside for anything, much less yourself. The door rests are rock hard. So after about an hour of driving, your elbows get sore.
Not like in a Raptor.
Not like in a Raptor. So, yeah, you'd have to be pretty hardcore to drive these. But they do look good, don't they?
It's a beautiful car. I mean, this spec is nice.
It is nice.
Red carpeting.
Yeah, the red interior with that shift knob.
Yeah, you're right. There is no room in this car at all. That's an awesome gauge cluster.
It is. It's very much focused on the rev counter, as it should be.
Yeah.
And I love how Honda hid the radio behind that cover. Yeah, if you go back to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how much they really didn't want you to turn on the radio in this car.
Yeah.
You didn't need to. The motor in this car is the centerpiece. There's not a lot of action on this car.
Yeah, there is.
So to me, this says that there is pent-up demand for a small, lightweight, rear-wheel drive convertible with a nice, normally aspirated motor in it, which you can't buy. Well, sorry, you can in the Miata.
Yeah.
But
I'd take this over Miata all day long, though.
I would too.
Yeah.
I think what's holding back the Miata for me, it's the motor. It's just not very special. It's pretty generic 4-cylinder, whereas this is an engineering masterpiece.
There it goes. 26 250.
Yeah, that's about right for this car. I mean, it looks super clean.
I think that's good on both ends. You know, how many miles is this car at? 81,000.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of higher mileage. It's not crazy, but you know, I wouldn't say that it's a low mileage S2000.
No, it's about where you would want an S2000 this year to be.
It's been driven.
Because you know it's been driven.
Right.
It hasn't been
taken care of.
It's a California car, so hopefully the undercarriage is as clean as the exterior would suggest.
Right. I think that the seller probably should feel pretty good about this. So here's a good question I have for you.
Yeah.
So when I posted my M2, I owed money on it, so I couldn't afford to do no reserve. If you owed money on a car, would you still put it up for no reserve?
There's something about a no reserve auction that just draws people in because you know what it is? People think that they're going to get a potential bargain. So whether they're interested or not, they're just going to watch the auction anyway.
Yeah.
And then you get a lot of people that are on the fence about bidding that because it's no reserve are now throwing bids in that are driving up your end result for the car.
Yeah.
That's my theory on it.
Yeah, that's fair. That yes, that's kind of the generic answer, right? Is that if it's no reserve, there's more excitement and people are more inclined to make a bid. Even though it, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really make a difference. Because if somebody's serious about buying a car on Cars&Bids and they're gonna make a bid, they want the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is something about the no reserve that attracts people. To me, it doesn't, but that's because I do have the perspective of if I'm gonna seriously. I mean, I've bid on one car on Cars&Bids ever in my life, and it was a Raptor, and it was early on in the bid. I didn't take it all the way to the end, but when I'm in the market for buying a car and I want it, I'm kind of somebody who, I'm gonna, if I start a bid and I'm in a bidding war, my ego is gonna take me to the end, and I'm probably gonna end up with that car, even if it puts me in some type of financial crisis where I'm like, I paid too much money for that car.
That's right.
But my ego's too high to be the dictator of it. But I don't know. I think I probably maybe would have got a couple more dollars if I did do no reserve.
I think it would have.
Yeah.
There's also been cases where it's backfired spectacularly on the seller.
Which
I'm
scared of that.
Right, and you just have to be willing to suck it up if it goes wrong for you.
Yeah.
There was a Focus RS not too long ago that went for $20,000 on a no reserve auction, and I was, I was thinking, man,
guy.
I was the seller. That poor guy.
Yeah.
He took a bath on that car.
Yo, but the buyer
Stole it. So
3-pointer from deep. You
yeah.
know? Swoosh. Do you watch the segment that Kenan and Filippo do, where they talk about what's currently on the website?
I don't watch the Kenan and Filippo only segment, but I
Yeah.
do watch the car podcasts.
Yeah, me too.
That
Every
the three of them
Friday.
do with Doug.
Yeah.
And those are wildly entertaining.
I every Friday. I look forward to it every single week to watch that podcast.
They have just great dynamics.
They do.
Those three.
I think Filippo is sometimes throws a little bit of a wrench in like.
Well, that's what makes it so entertaining.
It does.
I mean,
Yeah.
so I've been watching it, and now Filippo finally bought a car.
Finally.
The Golf, but it's a Golf GTI. And he was talking about Caymans and Vets
sevens and
everything, and then he gets another 4-door hatchback, which
in typical Filippo manner.
yeah, I guess it's on brand for him.
It is. And that's what they were saying too. Like Doug was like, "Why did you buy it?" But I understand why you, Filippo, bought it.
So it's funny because we all have car friends, and then we have our non-car friends.
Yeah.
And I have a friend that's been circling the wagons now forever on buying something. He sold a Cayman S, which I think was the perfect car for him. And now he's talking about everything under the sun, when in reality I think he should just get another Cayman S.
Yeah, I mean, look at this Cayman S right here, no reserve. 2 minutes left. We'll be able in this video. We'll be able to see what this goes for. I mean,
It's
95,000 miles.
It really is the de facto choice if you want a sports car. There's little that this car does wrong outside of IMS issues and winter main seals, which I guess at this mileage it's probably been taken care of anyway by this point.
You would hope so, and if it's not, I mean, it's gonna go for a price that if this has, I mean, we can see. I would assume that.
Look at the maintenance history on this car.
Yeah,
it's pretty spectacular.
Do you see the IMS done here?
I do find it interesting that spark plugs were done within 8 months of each other.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that is interesting. Was it just done incorrectly, or
maybe?
Are there deeper rooted issues there?
Yeah, right. Interesting.
But yeah, I mean that's at this price, and it's probably, what do you think it's going to go for? 35 when the hammer drops? If you had to guess.
I would say it's going to go anywhere between 36 and 38 is going to be my guess. Which.
So what else would you get for that price?
I know. That's going to be comparable?
That's comparable. It has the competency of this car. So, and I've been thinking about this too. Vantage V8s, the first ones with the 4.3 are getting pretty cheap. They're in the same price range granted, it's not a mid-engine car; it's front engine.
But it's going to be faster.
I mean, a Vantage V8's a pretty quick car.
Yeah.
They sound great, even if it's a Jaguar-derived V8. They still sound great. And they've proven to be pretty robust cars over the long run.
Those are all automatic?
Yeah, 6-speed manual. They didn't get into the automatic cars with the paddle shifters until they went to the 4.7.
Okay.
But the downside of that Aston is parts prices.
Yeah.
They are astronomically high.
Yeah. As most Aston Martins are.
I think they're even higher than Ferrari parts prices.
Really?
That's the rumor right now. It is stupid expensive to keep one of those cars on the road. Not that this is going to be cheap either.
No, but you could make the argument that it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
This is at 36.
It's sitting at 36, 10 seconds to go.
Which is still a lot of seconds.
It's a lot of, but and then I go back and forth between this, the Aston, and a used Evora.
A used what?
Evora.
What's that?
Lotus Evora.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, Evoras are going to be a little bit pricier than this, and you don't have an exotic motor.
Yes.
But you don't have exotic car prices either for that motor.
You don't, and you still have the look of an exotic.
You do.
Know, I
the
think
Evora
Lotus.
looks great.
I think Lotus. I think those are beautiful cars.
They are.
I don't know if I would buy one, personally, but
everybody says that.
I know.
What's holding you back personally on a Lotus?
You know anybody that works on Lotuses?
I haven't looked that hard, but I'm sure I can find somebody.
That's my main reason.
It's a fair point.
I know if I bought the which 36. I mean, that's a great buy. 36,000 for a under 100,000 mile Cayman. I think that's a good purchase.
It definitely is.
And it's the S, right? This is the Cayman S.
It's the Cayman S,
Yeah.
so it's got the larger motor in it.
Yeah.
And the support network for these cars is great.
Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah, I mean, I know that my main mechanic that I send anybody that comes here to, and any vehicle that I have, I know he's working on this car. But if I brought a Lotus to him, I think he'd probably smack me upside the head and say, "Get out of here, Aden."
I mean, in theory, you could bring it to any Toyota range. It's the same motor that you get in the Camry, the Sienna.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
So-
but you can't bring it to a Toyota dealership, I'm assuming. I mean, you could.
No, they're probably laughing.
You could, right? You theoretically you could bring it anywhere, but I'm about quality of work, I made the mistake when I owned my N54 335, bringing it to who claimed to be the German mechanic. And it was a disaster and a nightmare of ownership of a vehicle, because the first thing I got serviced, which was the valve cover gasket, was done so incorrect that it ruined a slew of other things and ruined my ownership experience of the N54 335.
You're not the first person I've heard that from.
So I've had that. I had that bad taste in my mouth about bringing it to the wrong mechanic, and one thing can lead to a bunch of other things.
I don't know if it's mechanic specific. It seems like everybody I know has had an N54 horse or.
Yeah.
So there's that side of it too.
I agree. I spoke to somebody the other day that had an N54, and I said, "How's been your ownership experience?" Because he's owned it for a little while, and he said, typical N54, but at the same time, he's had the right person work on it. It's cost him a lot of money, but at this point, he's close to 100,000 miles, and he's still driving it. And it runs every time he, starts it and drives it. So you get past the 60 to 90,000 mile maintenance that you have to do, which probably costs anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000, depending on how crazy you want to get.
Yeah, you got a walnut shell blast the motor, you get all the carbon out of it, right?
Yes.
By that time, you're probably into it for fuel pumps and wastegate
Oh.
actuators and all the
Water pumps.
typical N54 issues.
Yeah.
But I guess you're right. By the time you get to 100,000, all that stuff's been taken care of.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
It's just like the Porsches, you know, just like the IMS bearing and all
Sure.
that stuff. You know, when you're doing all that, you do a handful of other things, and then you're at 100,000 miles, and your car's in good shape.